Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. This is an opportunity that we have today to talk about some ideas that are really important to what appears to be Australians. An opportunity for all us to communicate what we think and share with this particular group your ideas so we can open up a lively discussion. So let's go. I'm going to discuss today, I'm going to begin anyway, at least by discussing what happened on Sunday in relation to the protesters, about 100,000 of them or so crossing Sydney Harbour Bridge. And we're going to have a look at what all of that means to all of us. Now, it's really a moment whereby we can start to think a little bit more clearly about Gaza, and that the general public are saying that it is an issue which most of us are concerned about, that is an issue about humanity and how we should stand in terms of helping to protect particularly women and children, or people who are held, who are innocent bystanders in a combat zone such as Gaza. Now, I, for one, have posted on this many, many times, but it is somewhat heartening to know that there has been a response from the Australian people, and that it's hard for governments to dismiss this response. It's meaningful. It's proving that there is a groundswell in order for governments to take further action in relation to Gaza, and particularly in relation to the IDF and the Israel government. And it is helping us to better understand that there is a divide between what happens in Gaza, the IDF, and anti-Semitism. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is about a government that's way out of control and is killing innocent people simply because they are of a different colour or race. So I'm going to take us first to Ed Husic, who's a Muslim, who's a member of Parliament. And Ed's one of those guys you've got to admire, because he stands up for what he believes is right. And he's done so in this discussion. He talks about the protests and exactly what it means to him. So this is worth noting.
But Federal Labor MP Ed Husic was among the protesters there yesterday. He says the size of the turnout sends a strong message to Australia's politicians.
It was a tremendous example of peaceful assembly, of people coming out in force to let governments know how deeply they feel and how much they want governments to act on the concerns that they have, triggered by horrific images that we've seen out of Gaza that we've previously spoken about. I think people in particular believe it's just not right. Not only is it not legally right under international humanitarian law to treat kids in the way that they've been treated in Gaza, but it offends our values as people, and so people turned up in large number. Now, I have to make a confession. I know this is probably the first time a politician's overstated attendance. I put on my social media, I thought it was way larger than the 90,000. It did certainly feel like that. And when we got to the other side, I was marching with a number of my colleagues. When we got to the other side of the bridge, we were then informed that people were being stopped because there were so many people crossing the bridge, which we took at the time, understandably, as a sign of support. But understand police had to make very practical, sensible, straightforward decisions about how to manage such a large crowd. I think this is a message to Australian politics generally, frankly. I think that just as some underestimated the amount of people that would turn up on the bridge, I think Australian politics has underestimated how strongly Australians feel about this issue. And I think in particular the events, as we just sort of reflected a few moments ago, have driven that. But I think it's also been the course of the Netanyahu government's pursuit of Hamas and the way that they have been unable to distinguish between civilian and combatant that has had more and more people start to say this is not right, and that they want to see the international community put pressure on. So I think this is a moment, a sort of wake-up call for Australian politics. I think when I looked in that crowd, you had the people that you would expect that have been there from the start protesting, but there was a lot of Middle Australia there, and I think that's something that can't be ignored.
The issue is that we're shifting about how we view Gaza. We're shifting as a nation about how we perceive the radical right wing in particular and how they're dominating and taking over the narrative. And I think it's important for us to understand that that desire that there is by Australians to no longer suffer the inappropriate and damning responses from the right, and particularly places like Sky News, is an indicator we're moving in the right direction. We may not see it as we would like to. It may not be as obvious. There's many more things that the Labor Party could do and have chosen not to do. And I'm the first to admit that I'm very disappointed in Penny Wong and some of the statements she's made and the stands that she's made against the IDF. But at least now the public has stood up and said enough is enough. And there's an interesting article in the Sydney Morning Herald which is titled "Despite Worst Fears and Weather, this was the day Sydney took a stand for humanity." Despite the worst fears of New South Wales Police and Premier Chris Minns, Sunday's pro-Palestinian protest on the Harbour Bridge will be remembered as the day Sydney turned out en masse to plead for humanity. Protesting against growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza has entered the mainstream. There is no other way to explain the reported 90,000 people who braved horrendous wet weather to walk or for a large part stand to demand an end to a worsening famine in the occupied territory. No one should suggest that the city had turned its back on our Jewish community, and boy do I ever support that notion. Rather, many ordinary Sydney-siders felt strongly enough about the crisis in Gaza that they saw it necessary to join the masses and cross the city's most iconic landmark. Undoubtedly, there would have been bad faith actors who joined the massive crowd. Equally, the Palestinian Action Group, led by serial protester Josh Lees, cannot take all the credit for the luring tens of thousands of people into the city, although it could not have happened without them. But the weekly PAG protests through the CBD, which Minns has previously said was a huge drain on the public purse, and that police should have the power to shut down, morphed into a show of mass solidarity against the deteriorating disaster in Gaza. And that's the takeaway that we need to have from all of this, is that the tide is turning, the time has come for Netanyahu to go, and that you and I need to make our stand against the horrors that is Gaza. And I think in particular, we need to make a stand against the Trumpism that has dominated this debate. And, the notions that they're going to turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East is bizarre, to say the least. And we must make a stand against all of the narrative that oozes its way out of the right in politics here in Australia and overseas. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications. And I also want to say that tomorrow, which is Tuesday, I plan to do a live feed at 1 o'clock. I haven't done one for a few weeks. So join me about 1 o'clock Australian Central Standard Time, and we can have a conversation then, one-to-one, you and I, about issues such as this and many other issues as well. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe. And remember that this is a place where there is no spin.